Solving Equations, Part 4. In today's lesson, students will solve equations with multiplication by dividing on both sides. By doing what? Dividing on both sides. Very good. So now that you know how to solve equations by adding or subtracting a number from both sides, we need to start to look at equations that involve multiplication. So the first thing that you need to know is when a number and a variable are touching. A number and a variable are touching. For example, here you have 2, that's the number, and it's touching the variable x. It's touching what? The variable x. And remember, a variable is a letter. It's a what? It's a letter. So when they're touching, this means they are being multiplied. Okay? They're being multiplied when they touch. You have to think about it like this. Let's say that the number, we're going to call Mr. 2, okay? And the letter, we're going to call Miss X. Well, when Mr. 2 and Miss X get married, they become 2X, right? We think married, multiplied. That's the same thing. And 2X is one term, okay? Now, when you have an equation, remember, an equation has an equal sign. It has a what? It has an equal sign. When, this is an expression by itself. When it has an equal sign, it becomes an equation. All right, so now in order to solve equations with multiplication, you have to do the opposite of multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplication? What is it? The opposite of multiplication is division. It's what? Division. So when you solve equations with multiplication, you have to divide both sides by the number touching x. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's take a look at this equation. It says 2x equals 16. What it's asking you is, what number, when you multiply it by 2, gives you 16? And some of you already know what that is, right? You can do it in your head. But let's say that you don't know, and you want to use algebra to solve for x. So, now, just like with multiplication means married. Okay, I've told you that what do you have to do to both sides? The opposite of multiplication, right? Division. So what happens when a letter and a number no longer want to be together, okay? Or don't want to be married anymore? What happens when you don't want to be married? You get a what? You get a divorce, right? Yeah, you do. You separate. You want to be alone. So now Miss X wants to be single. Okay, she doesn't want to be with Mr. 2 anymore. She's tired of him. So in order to be single, to get x by itself, you have to divide or divorce. And what do you divorce? Who is she divorcing? Who does she want to get rid of? She wants to get rid of who? This is Mr. 2, right? So you can divide both sides by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. Very good. Divide both sides by 2. Okay? Now, when you do 2 divided by 2, you must know that any number divided by itself, or 2 divided by 2, it's the same number, right? Any number divided by itself is 1. It's what? It's 1. So you put a 1 through it, and now it means x is by itself. But now x is 16 divided by 2. It's what? 16 divided by 2. And this is a fraction bar right here. What is this called? It's a fraction bar. Now you can also do division like this with a box. You're kind of used to it. You could say, okay, 16 divided by 2 means 16 divided by 2. Okay? So how many times do you skip count by 2 to get to 16? If you counted, it would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay? And when you count the tallies, you have 5 plus 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. So the quotient is 8, or the answer is x now equals 8. Okay? Go ahead and get that down. Okay, so let's read example 1 with me. It says 3x equals 18. Okay, so we have Mr. 3 and Miss X. They're married, they equal 18. But we need to figure out what number times 3 gives you 18. So what is the opposite of multiplication? It is division. So you're going to divide or divorce by Mr. 3. Okay, divide both sides by the number that is touching X. All right, so any number, now we're going to do the operations on both sides. Any number divided by itself is 1, okay? So now X can be single, she's by herself, but we need to figure out what is 18 divided by 3. So if you do long division, you put 18 inside the box, and 3, the divisor is 3. So it's asking how many times do we skip count by 3 to get to 18? And we can make tallies. We can say 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. All right, so count the tallies. You have 5 plus 1, which is 6. Very good. Okay, so x equals 6. Now don't forget that we always have to check our answer by rewriting the original equation. So we can say, okay, well, we know that 3x equals 18. And when two numbers are touching, it means they're being multiplied. So we're going to put parentheses around the x. And then we're going to substitute 6 in the place of x. Okay? So is 3 times 6 18? Is that true? Yes. 18 does equal 18, so we make a check. Okay, read example 2 with me. It says 4x equals 28. Okay, so we have Mr. 4 and Miss X. They're married. But now we want to get X by itself. So what is the opposite of being married? What do you have to do to get single? You have to get divorced. So you divide both sides by Mr. 4. Divide both sides by 4 to get X by itself. Okay? So then you do the operations on both sides. 4 divided by 4. Any number divided by itself is 1. Now x is by itself, but we have to figure out what is 28 divided by 4. So we say, what is 28 divided by 4? That means how many times do you skip count by 4 to get to 28? And you can say 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Then you count your tallies. You have 5 plus 2. So that makes what? That makes 7. Very good. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and say x equals 7. Now we have to check our answer. Okay? So we rewrite the original equation, which is 4x equals 28. If two numbers are touching, it means they're being multiplied. So parentheses means multiplication. What do parentheses mean? Multiplication. So we're going to put 7 in the place of x. We're going to say, is 4 times 7 equal to 28? 4 times 7? Yes. 28 equals 28. Check. Example 3 with me. It says 2x equals negative 12. Okay, so negative 12 is an integer. Right? You got a negative number now. So when you work with the multiplication and division of integers, you must remember Bob or Bob's cousin. Okay, Bob's cousin says that a negative divided by a negative is positive. Okay, so this little dot could be multiplication or it could be division. So let's just remember that. Now, when you have a positive and you divide by a negative, that gives you negative. So I'm going to put a little circle around his eye, okay? So let's take a look. in order to get x by itself, that's what you want to do, you have to divide or divorce by who? Who do you want to get rid of? Mr. 2. So divide by 2, and that 2 is positive, okay? So 2 divided by 2, any number divided by itself is 1. Now you have Miss X by herself. But what is negative 12 divided by 2? Remember, a negative divided by a positive is negative. So this answer, whatever we get, is going to be negative. All you have to do is skip count by 2 to get to 12. Okay? I'll tally for you. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. How many tallies did I make? I made 6. So the answer is negative 6. Let's check our work. So you're going to rewrite the equation 2x equals negative 12. And 2 and x are married, or they're being multiplied. And so now to check, we're going to substitute negative 6 in the place of x. So is 2 times a negative 6, does that give you negative 12? Is a positive times a negative negative? Yes, positive times negative is negative. Good job. The last example with me. It says 6x equals negative 24. Okay, it's asking 6 times what number would give you a negative 24? So in order to figure out what x is, since these are being married, now x wants to be alone, okay? Because she doesn't like Mr. 6 anymore. She wants to get rid of him. So she wants to get a divorce. So you're going to divide or divorce both sides by the 6. That's who you want to get rid of. All right, so any number divided by itself, or 6 divided by 6, is 1. Now, x is a single lady. Now this says negative 24 times, divided by 6. Sorry, negative 24 divided by 6. So first we need to know, well, what is the sign going to be? Because this is a negative divided by positive. So a negative divided by a positive is negative. So the answer is going to be negative. We're going to skip count by 6 to get to 24. So this is 6, 12, 18, 24. So how many tallies did I make? I made 4. So the answer should be negative 4. Let's check our work. See, the original equation was 6x equals negative 24. And these are being multiplied. So we want to go ahead and make parentheses around the x so we can substitute negative 4 in the place of x. So is 6 times a negative 4, does that give you negative 24? Well, you know that 6 times 4 is 24. A positive times a negative is negative. So negative 24 does equal negative 24. Very good. Get that down.